beautiful fields full of goldenrod. It's one of my favorite signs that fall has finally arrived here in North Alabama. But did you know that this flower can be used to make a delicious jelly? Well, neither did I, but in this video we're gonna figure out how to do just that. And we're not just gonna learn how to make any goldenrod jelly. No, in this video we are gonna be learning how to make the best goldenrod jelly. I have spent a ton of time and many different iterations in the kitchen coming up with the optimal technique for making this jelly. And I'm gonna share with you my golden ratio for jelly making. So without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so what I'm looking for in terms of these blooms when I'm harvesting them is that they look like this. Really bright and beautiful and vibrant, not at the stage where they're starting to get wilting and where they're starting to go to seed. And you'll also notice that I have some of the leaves in here, and that's totally fine. You can have the leaves, and you can even get some in the tea that you're gonna use to make the jelly. It's not a big deal at all. It doesn't affect the taste. It still tastes really, really good. So how much do you need of this? I would get probably about 2 solid handfuls of the blooms, and that'll be more than enough to make a lot of jelly for you. So now that we have all these blooms, let's go back to the kitchen and let's start making that jelly. Okay, so after several different rounds of experimentation, I have found that the best ratio is 1 to 1 to 1/15. That's gonna be 1 part flavored liquid, in this case that would be the goldenrod tea, to 1 part sugar to 1/15 part pectin. This by far has given me the most consistent results, with a jelly that's not too firm and not too runny. With that, let's look at all the ingredients that are needed to make this recipe happen. Okay, so to get started with our ingredients, we have classic pectin. This is of course one of the most important ingredients in our jelly actually being able to gel. We have sugar, which is going to provide sweetness, structure, and help with preservation. We have the goldenrod flowers themselves. This is the star of the show, which is giving us the wonderful flavor for this jelly. We have some acid, which is going to help to bring out all those flavors. And last, but certainly not least, we have some butter, which may seem weird, but we'll see how it's really important in this particular recipe. But to start off with step 1 of this process, we're going to be using the goldenrod flowers and some water in order to make our goldenrod infusion, the first step of making goldenrod jelly. Alright, to get things started, we are using a kitchen scale to measure out 480 grams or 2 cups of water. We're using a 1 to 6 ratio for the concentration of our tea. That's 1 part goldenrod to 6 parts water by weight. We're going to set that on a boil, and then we're going to bring out our goldenrod. I'm going to be cutting up the goldenrod flowers that we are using in order to increase the surface area so that we can make a stronger tea with what we have. Once we have it all cut up, then we are going to measure out 80 grams in order to have our 1 to 6 ratio. I didn't have quite enough, so I cut up some more, and unpacked. This is what 80 grams of goldenrod flowers looks like. Once the water has reached a boil, we're actually going to take it off the heat and let it cool down. We're not bringing it back up to a boil as we add our goldenrod flowers. Once we've added them, we're just going to stir it in to incorporate into the water, and then we're going to cover and let it simmer on warm, not boiling, for 1 whole hour. After it's been infusing for an hour, we're going to uncover the lid and then pour it through a fine mesh strainer in order to just get out the tea and separate it from the flowers. At this point, if you're like me, you'll probably want to taste your tea to see how strong it is. And you're going to find that it's very, very bitter. But don't worry, the sugar that we're going to add is going to completely balance this out in the end. Here is a look at the color of the tea for reference. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be making a very small batch of jelly. It's going to fill about a half pint mason jar. So I need to measure out just 12 grams of pectin. Next, I'm going to be measuring out 180 grams of sugar. Followed, as you of course know because of our golden ratio, by 180 grams of goldenrod tea. Great, now we have measured out all the ingredients that we need, so it's time to make the jelly. Okay, so before we actually start to add any heat, we're going to go ahead and add in our pectin and stir it in to dissolve. Now, when you start to stir this in, you might see a lot of bubbles come up. Don't worry, you didn't forget to wash the soap out of your pan. Goldenrod actually contains saponins, so when we agitate it like this, we're going to get a lot of bubbles coming out naturally. This is one of the main reasons why we're adding in butter, because it's going to help to cut down from the amount of foam that we're going to get through the whole process. Now we're adding in just a splash of acid, about 2 grams, as well as our butter, and then we're going to turn on the heat now and start to stir this mixture up. As the heat starts to build up, I'm going to start to try to address the amount of foam that is in our jelly mixture. I'm using a spoon and then just passing the foam off to the side by skimming it off the top. That's quite a lot, but don't lose hope. Stay confident in yourself and stay consistent. Make sure to not let it boil over. That can sometimes happen with small batches like this. Once it has reached a point where stirring it does not take away a boil, it is time to add in our sugar and continually stir until it is completely dissolved. At this point, we're going to set a timer on for 3 minutes. We're going to be continuously stirring and skimming away more of that foam, letting this all start to heat up. After it has gone for 3 minutes, we are ready to take it off the heat. Again, don't let it boil over like I almost did here. And then it is finally time to fill up our mason jar with our jelly mixture, to let it sit and finish the gelling process. I had a little extra that I poured into a little bowl on the side, but here's the cool part. If we can get the timing just right, bam, there we go. That's what I was going for. This is a gorgeous, glowing goldenrod jelly.